get started, Chuck, I got something to say to Mr. Valentine, and I want the rest of you guys to listen too, will you? Okay. I already told you, Mr. Valentine, how I feel after what you did for me. But there's something else. Nobody but you would have gone along with a gang like us. You believed everything Chuck told you. You trusted Barney and all of us. You stuck by us. I guess the Bearcats have been a little off the beam. But you can take my word for it. After this, we're going to straighten up and fly right. We're going to start a baseball team and use those bats the way they were meant to be used.
Well, fellas, after that, I don't think there's anything to add. Except, well, let's see.
Sure. And don't worry about the food, Mr. Valentine. We paid for it with our own money. Mr. Valentine, how do you suspect that Mrs. Ravel ended?
Well, it was all a matter of keys, Barney. Whoever killed Corey had to be inside the apartment.
Yeah?
When Danny came upstairs that night, he found a key in the door. Police took it as evidence. Mrs. Corey had her key. Bill Corey's key was found on him, and you, Danny, they found your key on you when you were arrested. Now, the only person who didn't have a key, had to knock to get in, was of all people, a landlady.
A landlady? How do you like it?
Order. Come on, everybody. Wait a minute. I got a motion, mate. What this club needs is an honorary captain. We already decided who it's going to be, huh, fella?
Oh, no. Now, wait a minute, fellas. Wait a minute. You don't have to do that after all.
Sorry, Mr. Valentine. We was really thinking about names wrong. I mean, Nick Brooks.
What really makes your car go? The big three factors, of course, are ignition, air, and fuel. And that last one, fuel, is mighty important. Most any gasoline mixed with air and then ignited will furnish enough power to make your car go. But to get the most out of your car, try Chevron Supreme gasoline, the premium fuel that's tailored to each different climate or altitude zone. Chevron Supreme has special blending agents that make your car start with a snap. These blending agents also give your car speedy pickup in stop-and-go traffic and smooth, steady power on the open highway. Next time you start out, get peak performance from your car by using Chevron Supreme gasoline. It's available at every standard station and independent Chevron gas station where they say and mean, we'll take better care of your car. Next week, when you tune our way for another adventure of George Valentine, you'll hear...
George, the woman maybe to be very quickly back in the morning.
See, even when people sleep, they manage to breathe.
Huh? Oh. Look, George. Maybe this empty bottle on the bed table means something.
It's no good.
When you will find me, I am dead. I could not tell you the secret of the Montoyas and go on living in peace and honor. Forgive me, Maria.
Tonight's adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and Standard stations throughout the West. Let George Do It stars Robert Bailey as George with Frances Robinson as Claire. Tonight's story was written by David Victor and Herbert Little Jr. and directed by Don Clark. Also heard in the cast were Irene Tedrow as Mrs. Corey, Gloria Blondell as Mrs. Ravel, Tommy Cook as Danny, Tony Barrett as Chuck, Sidney Miller as Barney, Herb Litton as Sudan, and Jack Crucian as Swede. The music is composed and conducted by Eddie Dunstetter. Your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
This is ABN, the Antioch Broadcasting Network. You just heard an episode of Let George Do It, which originally aired Monday, August 30th, 1948, 71 years ago today. Here's an episode of Philo Vance, which originally aired Tuesday, August 30th, 1949. 70 years ago today.
Any more speed out of this thing, Tommy?
Not without wings, boss. Are we shaking them cups?
They're not gaining on us. Take this corner in case they get ideas about shooting.
Hold on. What now? Shall I head for the hideout?
Not yet. Just keep the wheel steady. Your arm okay?
It hurts where that bullet went in, but it ain't bleeding much.
Good. We're only a couple of blocks from our place, but the cops don't know that. I'm gonna try and shoot one of their tires.
Go to it, boss. I ain't got no desire to get grabbed right now.
All right. Here it goes. I got it, Tommy. I got it with the first shot. Take a look at the mirror. Look at that patrol car wobble.
Wow, that was close. All you had to do was get nabbed with this loot we're carrying, they'd throw a library at us.
You're not kidding. Okay, slow down right here. We're out of trouble.
Good thing that bullet of yours didn't crack the cop's car up. Then we'd have a murder thing hanging around. They sure picked us up awful fast tonight, boss.
Accident could happen to anybody. A watchman spots us, fires a shot, hits you, and a patrol car happens to be passing. Yeah, we're lucky to get away, Tommy.
My rabbit split's working overtime lately. I'm gonna have it sold and healed if we keep using it the way we have.
You and I are running into tough breaks, lad. But the next job we pull isn't gonna have any risk attached to it. A lot of dough, no shooting, we don't even show our faces. How does that hit you?
Like a crossword puzzle. Unless... Hey, boss, we ain't gonna work on it.
No. We aren't gonna do anything at all. Somebody else is gonna do it, and our job is simply gonna be sitting back and collecting $100,000.
$100,000 for doing nothing?
Yeah.
You feel all right, boss?
Sure. Hey, what's the idea of stepping on it, Tommy?
What's the idea? What do you think the idea is? If we're gonna have to wait for $100,000, I wanna get over to the hideout and start waiting as soon as possible.
According to J. Henry Wheeler, attorney for the... Ellen, you're not listening to me.
How can you tell, Vance?
You're typing, and I'm trying to read this newspaper item to you.
I can type and listen. I'm typing while I'm talking to you, aren't I?
Yes, but talking is second nature to you. Listening requires concentration.
Sure, but typing doesn't. However, if it will make you happier with your secretary will stop. You hit a wall, hit it hard.
Oh, Ellen.
All right. I thought you only objected to that when I did it with the inter-office buzzer.
If you want to know the truth, I don't object to it at all. It just leaves me suspended from everything until you hit the last boom. Fine thing. Boom, did-a-boom, boom, boom.
Vance?
Boom. Now you know what I mean. Ellen, listen to this. It's from this morning's Herald. It says, J. Henry Wheeler, executor of the will of Donald Burke, retired shipbuilder who died last month, says that he is satisfied that one of the missing Burke sons, heir to the fortune left by the deceased, has returned.
Wait a minute, Vance. I don't get it. The lawyer is satisfied that one of the sons is returned. What does that mean?
It means that Burke had two boys.
Yeah.
Both of whom left home years ago and were never heard from again. As I understand it, the old man was kind of a tyrant. The kids couldn't take his abuse and ran away from home. Burke left all his money, about $250,000, to the boys in the event they returned.
How is anybody to know that the son who came back is Burke's son?
Well, Wheeler, the attorney, is apparently satisfied that the man who claims half the inheritance is the missing Fred Burke. The article in the paper goes on to say that he's been in China for 10 years, has no idea where his brother Ben is, but believes him dead.
That's all? That's all I wanted to know. You don't mind if I go back to work, do you? The whole thing sounds rather dull, Vance. What you need is District Attorney Markham to call up with news of a murder. Said he'd call back today.
Yes, only that's about a will, not a murder. Who would you like to find murdered?
The guy who wrote the newspaper piece.
Will.
Now, Vance, please. Oh, don't go away. Hello.
Oh, Ellen, this is Markham. Vance there?
Oh, hello, D.A. Yes, he's here. Just a minute. Mr. Markham, Vance, here you are. Thank you.
Hello, Markham.
Vance, this call is of the nature of a disappointment, I'm
No murder?
No murder. Merely a combination of circumstances that I don't like. Too much coincidence.
What is?
Have you been reading about the will of Donald Burke?
Well, you asked me to, and as a matter of fact, I've just been reading the story to Ellen. One of his sons has returned, I understand.
Yes, that's Fred. But Ben Burke has now made an appearance. Wheeler, the lawyer entrusted with the inheritance, just called me. He doesn't believe this Ben Burke is the legitimate brother at all.
Well, can't Fred identify him?
After 20 years, man. Fred says he may or may not be his brother. The man who claims to be Ben knows all about the family and childhood of the Burkes. Then that's been in all the papers.
Yes.
Wheeler is afraid that if Ben is not the legitimate brother, he'll be turning over $100,000 to an imposter.
No question about that. Well, thanks for calling, Mark. I'll look into this.
Good. I thought you'd want to. Bye, man.
Bye.
Going out, Dad?
Yes, I'll phone you later, Ellen. Anything to say to me?
Just this. Well, then?
Do that again, Ellen. On the desk this time. Goodbye.
Oh.
Look, let me tell you this, whoever you are. This business of you pretending to be my brother isn't going to work.
Can you prove I'm not your brother, Fred?
How can I?
That's all there is to it, then. What's the matter? You want the whole $250,000 that the old man left for yourself?
Maybe. Maybe I'm just sure you aren't dead. And maybe I'm getting a little tired of this conversation. Suppose you get out of here.
Suppose I don't. His house is half mine. Will be in a couple of days, anyhow.
If you don't get out, I'll throw you out.
Get somebody to help you and make it an even fight.
I don't need any help.
Start something and you find out.
All right, I will.
Come on, out of here, right?
Well, almost had nobody heard me. Look. I'm Philo Vance.
I wouldn't care if you were Dick Tracy. This is a private house and a private fight. Keep out of it.
Vance, I know you. I'm Fred Burke. This is the man who claims he's my brother.
Vance? He kidding?
You're no more my brother than Vance here is. I'm going to call the police and have them throw you out of here and into jail.
20 years hasn't changed you, Fred. You're still a kid, a dumb, selfish, willful child.
Yeah?
Vance will leave your own with you and tell you a couple of things on the way.
I wasn't thinking of leaving.
Yes, matter of fact, neither was I. This is my home. I'm staying here.
You're getting out of here. And if you don't, I will. When I prove you're a phony, they'll throw you out of here.
Now, wait just a minute, Fred. If you're leaving, I'll go with you. You're the one I came to see.
Well, I'm leaving, all right. If you're coming, come with me now. I'm ready.
I'm with you, Fred. And Ben, or whoever you are, I'm making you a promise. I'll be seeing you.
Be seeing me.
Yeah,
You?
that's right.
Just want to give you a little report. Your idea is great so far.
Sure it is. The way I planned it. Nobody's gonna know you aren't the real Ben Burke. What's with this phone call?
Just wanted to tell you that you'd better have some more answers ready. Philo Vance just left this house as my brother, Fred. Think he's going to go to work on me, Joe.
Oh, yes, is
Yeah.
he? Well, we'll take care of him.
Okay.
Better hop back here so we can make some plans. I've got 100,000 reasons for not wanting Philo Vance to investigate you.
Well, Joe, you got any ideas?
A couple. The afternoon paper gave me one.
What's in it?
Tell you in a minute. Right now I'm thinking about Vance. Let's see now. You're supposed to be the missing brother. Fred can't prove you're not, but maybe Vance can.
All I know is you don't know a thing about me. Nobody does. Been out of town for 15 years.
I know that. That's why I sent for you. It'd be a pushover for you to claim you're the missing brother. Anything you want to know about the guy you're supposed to be was in the papers.
I read up on it. Well, what about the newspaper you're talking about? Want to give you an idea.
Oh, man. Look,
What's up? Help me.
tell me what happened to you.
Guy bumped me in a crowded boogie. Knocked the bandage loose from my arm. You know where I got shot. Boss, I'm bleeding to death.
Get his coat off. We gotta work fast. Okay, I'll help you. Give me that shirt of his, will you? All right. I'll take this strip and tie it up with bullet. Now stop whimpering, Tommy. You're stupid enough to get into a crowd. Be quiet so I can fix you up. Tourniquet, Joe? Sure, what else? Stop the bleeding.
Don't do it, boss. Don't tourniquet on my arm. It'll kill me.
Shut up. No. Come on, twist the shirt, stuff around your arm, the bleeding will stop. Hand me that coat hanger there, will you? Okay. There you are. And just twist it around a couple of times. Hey, that hurts. That hurts, but stop the bleeding. All right. Go on to the bathroom. You clean up. Get a rag and clean this blood from the rug. Hey, boss. That's what I like about this place. Always so nice and quiet. Now, let's see, where were we?
We're trying to dream up a way to convince Vance that I'm really Ben Burke. Something on today's newspaper.
Yeah, that's right. You see the afternoon papers?
No, it's in them.
Only one thing we care about. Yeah, take a look. The story here. The reporter says that old man Burke left some word as to how to identify Laura's son. That's where you're supposed to be in. Whatever it is he left, it's in that lawyer's safe.
Wheeler's safe?
Yeah.
How come the reporter knew about it?
He interviewed old man Burke just before he died. It's logical enough. Friend, how much of the practice are you? That's right. We get a look at that paper, shut the safe, and Redbird's mouth.
Look. I see. It's Wheeler, the lawyer. Help me untie him, Mark.
I will. Take his gag off while you're working on the ropes. Yeah, Mr. Wheeler. I'm Mr. Attorney Marker. Tell us what happened. Mr. Wheeler. That's fancy.
Probably stuff. Apparently he was hit on the head by whoever it was. Tied him up. Look over there by the safe. There's a man lying on his back and shot through the chest.
Yes.
Look at that fellow, Marco. Ever see him before?
No.
I have. The man who wanted to be known as Ben Burke.
Oh?
Apparently, he came up here to rifle this safe, which is just what I figured he'd do if he were a phony.
Vance, I know what happened now. This man, whoever he is, came up here with a Confederate.
Yes.
He went to work on the safe. Wheeler came in, saw him, and shot him as he was bending over the safe.
Uh-huh.
This man's Confederate then hit Wheeler over the head and tied him up. Oh, look, Vance, Wheeler's moving. Mr. Wheeler. Mr. Wheeler.
Mr. Wheeler, this is District Attorney Mark, and I'm Philo Vance. Tell us what happened.
Came in the office, man at safe. Saw his back. Shot him. Got hit on the head. That's all I remember.
You see, Vance, I was right. I told you exactly what happened, didn't I? This dead man isn't Ben Burke at all. He's an imposter. Our case is ended.
You told me what you thought happened, Mark. Apparently, what Mr. Wheeler here says bears out your story. But actually, it doesn't. Wheeler didn't kill this man. And because he didn't, our case is just beginning.
This is District Attorney Mark. The Beverly murder case concerns the killing of a man who pretended to be Ben Burke, one of two brothers who, after having been missing for 20 years, returned at the death of their father to claim inheritance. Vance has planted a newspaper story which indicates that positive proof of the older brother's identity is in lawyer Wheeler's office safe. It was in front of his safe that the alleged Ben Burke was found. Shot. Vance has gone back to his office after stating he doesn't believe Wheeler has killed the man who claimed...
You see, Ellen, the lawyer couldn't possibly have shot the man. The lawyer's story was that he came in his office and saw a man standing over the safe. He saw only the man's back, and he fired. But the man we found had a bullet wound in his chest. There was no mark on his back.
In that case, what happened to Wheeler's bullet? Or did he just make up the whole story?
Wheeler missed when he shot. We found the bullet he fired in the wall of his office. Now, let's start with the knowledge that the dead man was not Ben Burke, as he claimed. Who could have shot him?
First, let's find out who he was.
We know that already. He was an ex-safecracker, missing for years.
Oh.
His fingerprints were on file at headquarters.
In that case, I know the whole story.
I hope it's more accurate than Markham's idea of what happened in that shooting.
You want to listen or you want to talk?
Go ahead.
Well, this ex-safecracker was brought out of hiding to open that safe. And as soon as he did the job, whoever hired him killed him. And whoever that was now has the proof of how Ben Burke can be identified. Simple?
That's very clear. Only two things wrong with it, Ellen.
What?
One, there was no proof of the safe. And two, whoever hired the man to pose as Ben Burke wouldn't kill him after hiring him.
In that case, either the lawyer or the legitimate brother Fred Burke killed him.
Well, what would you suggest we do about finding out?
I did my share. Now on, it's up to you. You take it from here, Vance.
This the room where you doctor up accident patients?
Yes. You better sit down, young man. You'll take care of that arm.
I ain't got no time to have no arm taken care of. Just fix it so it stops bleeding.
Of course we will. Now, please sit right where you are while I take a look.
Okay.
There we are.
Hey, Doc, don't take off that bandage. I'll bleed to death.
Now, when did you get this wound?
Now, fix it up. Don't ask no questions.
But I've got to ask a few. We've got to report this to the police.
Oh, you don't? I don't want anything to do with no cops. Huh? They'll tie me up to that Ben Burke murder. Get your hands off me. Get them off.
Now, look, you've got to sit there until I can get...
I said let go. You should have let go. Now I gotta get out of here and get a phony doctor to take care of me.
You're not going to leave here until I can...
Look at me. I only got one good arm and I knocked this guy stiff.
Of course I want to help you, Vance, but how can I? I've told you and I've told Markham 100 times that I don't know what my real brother Ben would look like. I knew what he looked like when he was 16, but well, that's the last time I saw him.
The man who claimed to be your brother was found shot to death in the office of your father's lawyer. You know that?
Yes, the district attorney phoned and told me. I knew he wasn't my brother, and I know why he went up to Wheeler's office.
Yeah?
He wanted to find out what identification my father left. Identification that was supposed to be in Wheeler's safe.
Weren't you interested?
Why should I be? My father left no identification. And even if he had, it wouldn't concern me. As to the other person's advantage to find what was in that safe. Well, the newspapers plainly said the identification concerned Ben Burke.
Yes, I know. You realize, of course, that you're a suspect in this murder.
Me?
Yes.
But why would I kill this man? For what reason?
To avoid splitting the inheritance. As it is, the entire $250,000 goes to you.
The money goes to me anyhow. I knew it would go to me. I knew that man wasn't my brother, and eventually I would have been able to prove it.
Well, that's right. Oh, hello, Mark. Come in, will you? You know Fred Burke.
Vance, we have a lead on the Ben Burke killing.
Have you, Mark? Tell me about it.
A fellow showed up at the Harrison Hospital a little while ago with a bullet wound in his arm. He drove away from the intern who was trying to treat him, and the intern said he'd have to report the wound to the police.
How does that tie up with the murder case we're on?
As he was struggling with the intern, he said something about not wanting the police to get word about him because then he'd be tied up with the Ben Burke murder.
Oh, I see. Where is this young man now?
Simple to track him. We got in a taxi parked in front of the hospital. We checked all the cabs and found out where he was taken. The shack down to the water. I thought I'd report to you before we closed in on him.
I'm glad you did. Because you realize, of course, that you have no proof against this fellow.
Yes, I know.
Well, let's go get him. We'll worry about it.
Vance, I'd like to quit.
Why?
Excitement. I'm bored to death sitting around. Take me with you.
Have you a gun?
No, but I've got a pretty good pair of hands. Well, what do you say?
All right, Fred. Well, the night's over. A couple of hands may come in mighty handy.
you up with a murder that I thought you might tell us why.
Who said I killed Phil?
Well, your friend here just asked you why you did it. It seems to imply you did it.
Does it? Tommy, listen to this, huh? Yeah, boys. Tommy, why did you shoot Abraham Lincoln? I shot him. Yeah, that's right. I just asked Tommy why he killed Lincoln. That means you killed him?
Just a minute, my good friend.
All right, Vance, what's the deal?
You hired a safecracker named Fruit to impersonate the missing Ben Burke. You told him to go to Wheeler's safe and get the identification papers you thought were there. You found out he was going to double-cross you, and so you killed him.
If you say so, Vance, you must have proof, and that's enough for me. Come on, you two. You're coming with us.
Oh, no, we're not. Come on, Tommy. They won't shoot. We'll make a break.
You'll make a nothing.
Oh, look.
Well, quite a right hand you have there, Mr. Burke. Yes, isn't it? You flattened our friend very nicely.
Look, nobody clipped me here. I don't know nothing. I didn't see nothing. Besides, look at me. I'm wounded. See, my arm. I'm wounded.
We won't hurt you. However, we will take you downtown with us, you and your friend here, when he wakes up. Well, Vance, that's that, I believe.
Are you indicating that we've reached the end of the brotherly murder case?
Of course. You yourself.
I just wanted to see what reaction my words would have, Mark. This Joe individual didn't kill the man pretending to be Ben Burke.
He didn't. Well, then who did murder the man who claimed to be my brother?
You did.
Me? Are you kidding? Why would I kill him? How would I kill him? And even if I did, how could you possibly know?
You told me. Not in words, but you told me just the same. You actually told me something just as important when you did. You told me that you aren't Fred Burke. What? That you, too, are an imposter.
What? You...
Arrest him, Markham. Murder. For not being half as clever as he thought he was.
Go ahead, Vance. I'll take notes while you dictate.
All right, Helen, but not on the typewriter. You always play games, and it's very distracting.
More distracting than I am.
No. But you don't make any noise while I'm talking. Generally.
Generally.
And let's keep it that. Okay? All right, here we go. Notes on the brotherly murder case. I knew the man pretending to be Fred Burke was not Fred Burke because I knew it was he who killed the man pretending to be his brother, Ben Burke.
Oh, brother. Does that make sense?
It will when I cut it down like this. Fred Burke told me that there were no papers in Lawyer Wheeler's safe that could identify his older brother. Now, how could he know there were no papers unless he went through the safe?
No way.
Okay, then that's cleared up. Now, why did he go through the safe?
Don't look at me. I'm just taking notes.
He did it because he was afraid the man posing as his brother was the real Ben Burke. And if he were, if he found the papers establishing his identity, he might also find the papers that could have identified the real Fred Burke.
Yes?
All this was on his mind when he crept up to Wheeler's office, only to find our friend Pete there before him, bending over the open safe.
Well, but where does Wheeler come into this?
Don't rush me. The phony Fred Burke shot Pete as he knelt before the safe. Then he went through the papers in the safe and was there when Wheeler walked toward his office. Pete was dead, but Fred popped in front of the safe and hid behind the door.
Then Wheeler came in, saw somebody at the safe, and fired.
Fire missed. The man who claimed to be Fred Burke didn't give Wheeler another chance. Hit him on the head and tied him up.
And all this happened because you gave the newspapers a phony item about having proof of identification in Wheeler's safe.
I had to do something to force a move from the bogus Ben Burke. I'll tell you honestly, I didn't know Fred was
You just heard an episode of Philo Vance, which originally aired Tuesday, August 30th, 1949, 70 years ago today. Stay tuned for Police Stories, next on ABN. Old Time Radio Antioch. Brought to you by Mac and Mind Software and your donations. You're listening to ABN, the Antioch Broadcasting Network, serving listeners on the internet and community radio stations with a variety of old-time radio. Visit radio.macandmind.com for more information. We now present Police Stories on ABN, the Antioch Broadcasting Network. Here's an episode of This Is Your FBI. This episode originally aired Friday, August 30th, 1946, 73 years ago today.
The Equitable Life Assurance Society presents This Is Your FBI. This is Your FBI. The official broadcast from the files of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, presented as a public service by the Equitable Life Assurance Society of the United States and the Equitable Society's representatives in your community. Fathers and mothers of America, attention please. Upon the training you give your children today depends the future of America. Our system of free enterprise, personal liberty, and democracy cannot exist without educated and enlightened citizens. In about 14 minutes, our sponsor, the Equitable Life Assurance Society of the United States, will have some helpful suggestions for parents. If you wish to equip your children so that they will be able to take advantage of all the opportunities the future offers, don't miss this important message. Tonight's FBI file, The Return of the Mob.
Last year, America celebrated victories over two powerful external foes. Victory is made possible only by the perfect coordination, the perfect teamwork of every unit of every branch of the armed forces and civilian production. Today, America is at war against the mighty internal foe, a powerful army of criminals sweeping the nation with the biggest crime wave in her entire history. And victory in this war will depend likewise on perfect teamwork. The perfect teamwork of all branches of law enforcement, local, state, and federal, plus the cooperation of you, the American citizens. Teamwork of the kind that smashed a criminal kingdom in tonight's case from the files of your FBI. 20 years ago, the White Horse Tavern in the city of Riverdale was a popular speakeasy and the throne room of one of the most powerful mobs of that era. Today, this tavern is only a second-rate bar and grill, looking as warm and grimy as the middle-aged man who has just entered the front door and crossed the bar.
What'll you have, mister?
Huh?
I said, what'll you have?
Oh, another thing, thanks, I just come into the bar.
Well, the 50-cent tour don't start for an hour, so breeze, will you?
Wait a minute.
Yeah?
I used to come in here years ago. A lot of years ago. I was wondering if any of the old customers are still here.
Look, Mac, I just came on this job a month ago. Take your business down the street.
Wait. You ever hear of Curly Silvers? Sleepy Young? No. How about George Hamilton?
Sitting right back there.
No kidding.
Okay. Come on, drink up, baby. We gotta be moving.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Yeah?
I was told there was a friend of mine back here.
Well?
George Hamilton, you know?
I'm George Hamilton.
Oh, you can't be. You're too young.
Look, Pop, what is this, a touch?
No. I'm looking for a fellow who used to hang out here 20 years ago.
Hey, George, maybe you mean your old man.
My old man worked for this bum. Stop, will you? 20 years ago, his boss was King Brown.
I'm King Brown.
What?
I said I'm King Brown. This used to be my headquarters.
George, is he left?
This picture, miss. Me and George Hamilton 20 years ago.
Let me see that.
Sure.
That's Pop, all right.
And that's me.
Yeah, it is. Well, what do you know? I thought you were sent away for life.
I was paroled. Got out 2 days ago.
You know something, honey?
What?
This character used to be the biggest operator in town. King, what brought you back here?
I'm on my way to my brother's farm in Minnesota.
Did you get the shorts? Need some coffee?
Well, yes.
Got the hungries going, too?
I could stand the meal, yeah.
Sit down.
Hey, I thought we were leaving.
I want to talk to you.
Yeah, but we got to
All
get
right,
down.
sit down now. Go.
Thanks.
King, my old man used to say you were the best organizer he ever saw.
Well, that was a long time ago.
That happens to be the business I'm interested in right now. Maybe I can pick up a few tips. How about a nice big steak? Go on, keep talking, King. I just want to fill up your glass again.
Thanks.
I guess this stuff ain't as fancy as you used to drink in the old days, huh, King?
Well, at least the label's on the level. Speaking of the old days, you know something?
What?
I used to own this town with everybody in it. All I had to do was snap my fingers and they'd jump to a hook. I couldn't even lay a water main or pave a street with my say-so.
You mean unless you got your cut?
That's what I said.
I guess those days are gone forever, huh, King?
Yeah, only because the guys with any enterprise have either gone up or pushing daisies. If I was 20 or 25 years younger, I could get together
say that, Keith.
Huh?
Because I am 20 years younger.
I don't get you.
I got the enterprise and I got the guts. All I need is the know-how about organizing the mob in the town. That's where you can help, Keith.
Huh?
Look, why don't you forget about your brother's farm? What do you want to do? Finish out your ticket milking cows or stacking wheat?
Oh, no, but
I see. Maybe those 20 cycles in the can have softened you up too much.
Wait a minute.
Maybe you wouldn't know how to get started anymore.
Give me another drink.
Sure, here.
Wouldn't know how to get started, huh?
Would you?
Look, first thing I'd do is get a mob together and sell protection to all the stores and shops in town.
How?
It's a very simple recipe, kid. You just give me the acid.
What's that?
If the guy said he doesn't want to buy protection, you toss a little acid. And you never have to do it more than once, because by the time the acid will burn through his clothes and his skin, he's yellow.
King? What's your glass? You too, baby. This town is going to be incorporated.
Things began to move fast behind the scenes in Riverdale. But it was barely a month later that Agent George Collins at the local office of the FBI received a caller on emergency mission. The caller was Riverdale's chief of police, Claude Monroe, and his mission.
It's not news to either of us, Mr. Collins, that the old gang system of organized crime is coming to life again in this country.
That's right.
But it gave me a pretty stiff jolt last week to find out that it's happening right under my nose in Riverdale.
Really? What'd you uncover?
Well, I haven't got positive proof, but I'm pretty familiar with all the signs of the gang at work. You see, I was a rookie cop in Riverdale back in the 20s when the mob was first getting started in this country.
You must have had a hand in cleaning up King Brown.
Yeah. That's why I can tell what's happening now. Not the same mob, of course.
They were wiped out when King Brown went up.
That's right. This is a new gang, but it's getting started along the same old pattern. We don't know who's running it or who the hirelings are. But this much we do know.
Yes.
Nearly every store and shop in Riverdale is paying protection.
When did this start?
It couldn't have been more than a week or so ago. We've been trying to turn the light on it ever since. But, of course, as you might know...
Nobody will fall.
Exactly.
Same old intimidation.
It's hard to blame the store and shop owners much.
I know. Not when they have property, their work, and even their own lives at stake.
Classic Collins, the longer they keep silent, the longer they'll be slaves.
I know.
Something's got to be done. Done fast. Things will be as bad as they were back in the 20s.
Yes.
No telling what prices people in Riverdale will have to pay before we can break it up.
What's your plan of action?
That's why I'm here. I need the FBI's help. The job is already too big for my small force.
Chief, I
know the FBI can't step into a local situation unless some federal law is being violated. But all I'm asking now is, couldn't you at least give us a hand in finding out who's behind this thing?
Mr. Monroe, we'll start to look around right now.
Okay, even though anybody, I'll make another strike. That's for suckers, the way you're bowling, George. Oh, watch this. Oh, pretty lucky.
Nice going, honey.
Hey, where have you been, baby? I've been waiting to show you the new office.
Well, let's see it.
Okay, amateurs, the alley's yours. Come on, sugar.
Look, George, why did you have to pick a bowling alley?
Because it gives us a legal front. I'm playing it smart, sweetheart. Here we are. Now be careful when you step on the rug. Sink up your ankles.
George, this is beautiful.
Like it?
Boy, I love it. And that desk. I never saw such a production.
How do I look behind the scenes?
All you need is the secretary on your knee.
Wow, what are we waiting for?
Is this the right position, Mr. Hammond?
Well, let's try and sit.
Mr. Hammond.
Proud of me now, baby?
I don't know. How much money are we making?
Coming in by the creek.
I'm very proud of you.
Hello, George. King, from now on, you might try knocking first.
Sorry. Well, how are the payments coming?
Why?
Just wondering how we're doing.
We're doing all right.
Any new members for the Southside Protective Association?
The boys are out doing a little selling now.
How about that drugstore down in front?
It's out. It's a change.
Hey, this is Jad. Radiolab is supported by IBM. The world needs a technology company that applies smart technologies at scale with purpose and expertise, not just for some, but for all. Let's expect more from technology. Let's put smart to work. Visit ibm.com/smart to learn more. Hey, this is Jad. Radiolab is supported by BetterHelp, offering licensed professional counselors who specialize in issues such as depression and give counsel through text, chat, phone, and video. Radiolab listeners get 10% off your first month with discount code RADIOLAB. So why not get started today? Go to betterhelp.com/radiolab.
Wait, you're listening.
You're listening to Radio Lab.
Radio Lab.
From
WNYC.
See?
Yep.
Does that mean that all the male folk music
That's amazing.
Hey, I'm Jad Abumrad.
I'm Robert Krulwich.
Radiolab.
Females haven't fared much better. There's so much genetic similarity among them, the effective population size is less than 50. So despite there being 9 million of them, there's really only 50 cows out there.
Like, that's true of bananas, too, right? It's like all bananas belong to one banana. A little while ago, we got into the studio with Simon Wheeler, who's our, what is he, executive?
He's managing editor.
Managing editor. And we were, well, as you heard, we were in a kind of conversation about cow genetics.
For reasons that will become clear later.
I was going to see if I could do some milk production for roasting milk.
Because actually the real reason that we were in the studio with Soren was to talk to...
Is Nate here?
I am here. I do.
Hi.
This guy.
Nate DeMeo.
No, I'm here.
He does a podcast called The Memory Palace. He's been doing it for about a decade now.
And I'm here at Marketplace, where I used to work for many years. So it's a little bit like coming back to high school. I feel like I'm roaming down the halls being like, hey, man, hey, there used to be a water fountain there.
Every episode, he tells a history story, but it's done so personally and so carefully.
And so differently than
we do it.
Than we do it, yeah.
And we just thought, well, we want you to hear what he does.
And from time to time, it's something we do. We want to present the people that inspire us. And
so what we plan to do here is just give you a taste. So we're going to play a few Nate DeMeo pieces. We're going to talk about them right after.
And in the end, he's going to debut a new one that he made kind of with us in mind.
That's where there will be cows again.
But before we get to that, for me personally, the one that really sort of just like made me have to sit down and just think for a while was when Robert sent me the Morse code thing he did.
Oh, sure.
I was like, God damn, that was good. There's not a wasted decision in that entire piece. And like, as an editor, I pretty much can say that about nothing else.
Maybe nothing
ever. And so it's just kind of perfect. So.
Do you want to play it?
Yeah, play it.
Sure. Play it. Yeah. Robert might not remember it that well.
It's which one is it?
It's called Distance.
Oh, here it is. I think it's episode 44. So I'm gonna hit play. Hopefully we'll hear something.
This is the Memory Palace, of Nate DeMeo. Samuel Finley Brees Morse spent the first 35 years of his life learning to paint. At Andover, at Yale, in London at the Royal Academy. He studied the works of the masters to learn how Michelangelo built bodies that seemed to pulse and shudder out of mere oil and shadow and cross-hatch. To learn how Raphael summoned the spark of inner life with a single stroke of pure white in the dusky ochre of a noble woman's eye. To learn how to create illusions of space and distance. To learn how to conjure the ineffable through the mere aggregation of lines and dots and stretch canvas. He learned how to paint. And in 1825, Morse was living in New Haven, Connecticut with his wife Lucretia and 2 young sons. And a 3rd child was on the way, due any day. One night, a courier delivered a message. The city of New York wanted to pay Morse $1,000 to paint a portrait of the Marquis de Lafayette. The hero of the Revolution was coming to Washington to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the start of the war. and he would sit for Morse if the painter could leave right away. So he packed his easel and his brushes and his paints in clothes that were good enough to wear when meeting a man like Lafayette. And he kissed his pregnant wife, and he left that night. On another night, a week later, Morse was in his rented studio in Washington, preparing for the arrival the next morning of his distinguished subject. He heard a knock on the door, and there was a courier, breathless and dirty from a hard ride on hard road, handing him a note that was 5 words long. Your dear wife is convalescent. He left that night. He rode for 6 days straight, on horseback and in the backs of juddering wagons, wrapped in blankets against the cold wind of October nights. And when he made it to New Haven and ran through fallen leaves up to the house on Whitney Avenue, he learned that his wife was dead. In fact, she had died before the courier had knocked on his door in Washington. In fact, she had already been buried some morning while he was on the road, while he was racing home to be by her side and sit with her while she had better. Samuel Finley Brees Morse spent the next 45 years of his life trying to make sure no one would have to feel the way he felt that night, ever again. Samuel Finley Brees Morse spent the next 45 years inventing the telegraph to turn real space and real distance into illusion, in developing Morse code, dots and lines that could transmit the stuff of real lives into county lives.
That is such a great last line.
Lost lives and dying lives.
Asshole.
Well, thank you, fellas.
Well, just think about the lushness of the writing. Like, you're not just galloping down a road. Like, you're in a blanket, and it's nighttime, and you're out of breath, and you can see so clearly. So there are very few sentences conjuring up such a lot of paint.
You know, the one that got me in that was the running through the fallen leaves when he's gotten back almost to his house, and the running through the fallen leaves to get to the door. That one, just a movie took place in my mind in about, yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of glad that you guys chose to play this one. It's not, I sort of forget about it sometimes, but it sort of does seem to be a favorite of some folks. I think in some ways just because I think that it's fun that it's so short, but at the end of it, folks wind up moved. And I mean, some of that I think I just chalk up to the fact that you play the dying wives card, and you can I think that gets you a long way. But it's what I'm sort of trying to do, to have you walking away feeling like, oh, I see where this guy's coming from. I've felt this way before.
Nate, why have you always?
I think that I'm not much of a history buff. I really am not. I like fiction a lot more. I like movies a lot more. But I have been fascinated with the past and how it works since I was very, very young. Like, it's been a preoccupation of mine. Like, I just very distinctly remember going on vacation to Colorado when I was 4 or 5, and hearing a Kenny Rogers song that was on the radio during one particular drive, and then being like 7 or 8 and being really struck, back home in Providence, 2 or 3 years later, how just powerful it was to just hear, Lucille or whatever on the radio, or Coward of the County or whatever it might have been, and really be brought back to that moment, that something could feel so real, right there in a different context. And similarly, I spent, a lot of my youth sitting around my grandparents' kitchen table, listening to family stories. And both sides of my family are big storytellers, and so I would hear the family lore sort of over and over again. And I would hear the debate about the best way to tell the story. That no.
Interesting.
That's right. So what you need to say first is that, so Dad was 8, and let's get this straight. He wasn't 10. It's important that he was 8, and that's the day that he decided to steal the car and drive it around the block. And one of the stories that was told over and over again referred back to a time that my mom's dad was this kind of, particularly during the Depression, was this kind of jack of all trades. You know, he fixed car batteries and did a number of things to kind of feed the family. And one of the things that he did was drive a cab, which from what I understand, it was essentially just sort of the Depression Uber. It was some borrowed car that he would give people a ride in. And he was driving up the hill, up the east side of Providence on the way to Brown University, up, I believe, Waterman Street, which is the steepest street. And he's like struggling with his clutch, and he's trying to just keep this car going up this hill. And while he was doing that, the passenger in the back seat put his feet on the floorboards and went through the bottom of the car. And then suddenly had to run along with the car like Fred Flintstone until they could get to safety.
Wait, he fell, he slipped through the bottom.
Yes, his feet went right through to the ground.
Oh my God.
And so this is a story that was worth telling at Christmas or whatnot. But I very distinctly remember being in high school in my first car, in my Volkswagen Rabbit, driving stick on that same hill with like friends in the car, being so sort of elated to be, you know, a teenager behind the wheel and you know, driving over to go to the record store and just feeling like young and alive, and then realizing like, oh shoot, I don't know if I can get up this hill. because I don't know if I can handle the clutch on this thing, and I'm already smelling the, you know, the burning clutch. And it was just like, oh yeah, this is that hill. You know, here I am in my own youth, having a moment on the same hill.
So you have like you have whispers from the past.
Exactly.
Like a rhyme. It's sort of
because you've been there so long and your family's been there that every step you take is a step already taken in some way.
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
Wow.
Is there any way we can get ourselves kind of into another one?
Yes. Yeah, which one?
So why don't just like, I think numbers might actually have the words numbers next to the file. The other ones are also
Should I go 94 numbers?
Yes, two numbers.
Yeah,
it's 936, is that?
Go.
All right, here we go.
This is the memory palace. I'm Nate the Man. Maybe you remember. I don't.
Because of the CBS News special report which follows, Mayberry RFD will not be presented tonight, but will return next week at its regularly scheduled time over most of these stations. The Draft Lottery.
The news came on. Maybe you were just going to watch Mayberry RFD and were surprised. Maybe you had scheduled your whole week or more. Canceled plans. Got off work. To be there in front of the set on December 1st, 1969. Or you listened on the radio in the living room with your folks like it was 1940. Your father pacing like his father might have done in 1940. Your mom there with her brave pacing. Ash on her cigarette going long. Or you were listening on the little transistor radio popped up on the shelf above the sink with your dishwashing job, with all the guys in the kitchen, each of you hanging on every number. The one older dude, north of 30, keeping his mouth shut for once. Maybe you got in the car to listen, because the reception was better, he said. But really you just wanted to be out of the house, away from your roommates, or your girl, or everyone. Just wanted to be driving. Maybe you remember. I don't. The news broke in and there was a reporter, Roger Mudd from CBS. He's young and handsome in the video on YouTube. I didn't realize you'd ever been young and handsome.
Tonight, for the first time in 27 years, the United States has again started a draft lottery. And the famous first pick tonight is September 14th, the first birthday that now is designated 001, which means for 19-year-olds born on September 14th, beginning in January, local draft boards will induct those men born on September 14th, barring deferments. The next birthday in order, April 24th, and so on down the line this evening.
And so on down the line. It was the first draft lottery since the fall of 1940. A little over a year before the U.S. entered World War II, but Washington knew where the whole thing was headed by then. 20 million men, ages 21 to 36, had to register. Had to have their birthday attached to a number, 1 through 366. There was an extra number for a leap day babies. So those numbers could be written on slips of paper, so those 366 slips of paper could be put into 366 capsules and put into a bowl. There was a big ceremony. The Secretary of War was blindfolded with a swatch of fabric cut from a chair used during the signing of the Declaration of Independence. He drew a capsule from the bowl that had been stirred with a paddle made from a beam from the ceiling of Liberty Hall and handed it to the president. And thousands of people, united only by their citizenship and by the various outcomes of cascading games of chance, of timing, of biological processes of happenstance, that it meant each was born male on that particular day in the calendar, during this narrow window of years, would be sent off to war. There was less ceremony in 1969. There was no blindfold, no relics to wrap that night in the spirit of the founding. It was carpet and curtain in the beiges and browns of Vietnam-era bureaucracy. No president or cabinet member to do the honors. Nixon left the number pulling to selective service officials and their secretaries.
September 14th.
September 14, 001.
And at least one young man from the president's youth advisory council.
Paul M. Murray, Rhode Island.
There were supposed to be others, but others refused. Said they didn't want to be used as props by the Nixon administration. But the numbers were pulled anyway. Drawn from blue capsules drawn from the clear bowl, in full view of the camera so no one could call foul, in the process at least. And slips of paper were read out and stuck on bulletin boards. A printed date, posted beside numbers listed in order, 001 to 366. And you just waited. Waited to hear your birthday call, a date you know better than any other. Waited to hear it called out and posted beside what would be your draft number that would determine when you had to report for induction. You even waited through commercials.
And here's the Norelco Santa with some new ways to say Merry Christmas. Give the Norelco triple header with a cord or in a rechargeable model. Give the inexpensive Flip Top 20 or the new battery cordless. And say Merry Christmas to the ladies with a Lady Norelco shaver or beauty salon. Norelco, even our name says Merry Christmas.
February 29th.
On another night, later, there would be another lot of them, drawing letters this time. It would determine the precise order in which men who shared the same birthday would have to report to be inducted. Those with the initials JSM before JJS or JRS or whatever. Later there would be a study, a statistical analysis that suggested the drawing of dates wasn't truly random, that the bowl wasn't stirred well enough, that December birthdays weren't picked often enough, early enough. But the numbers called on that Friday night in the winter of '69 would stand. And so 850,000 men would live. Hearts and throats, knee bouncing, fingers drumming on steering wheels. Whatever that thing they would do when they were nervous was. When they were waiting for something. Some game of chance to set the course of their life. That might upend every plan they'd laid. Dash whatever hopes they'd harbored for their life. Might end their life. That would go on to separate their generation into draftees and deferments and dodgers. It was doing it already that way. As they watched and heard their friends' birthdays get called, and were glad it wasn't theirs. As they'd stand around in the kitchen comforting a coworker that the war would be over before his 37 meant he ever had to go to Vietnam. Hoping that was true. Or they knew already that the guy who pulled 224 was never going to have to make good on his promise to run to Canada. And they had to look their brother in the eye. And he had 16. And you had 172. They were sitting on the warm hood of a car in a field on a cold night. Their best friend. His birthday they always remembered because it was Valentine's Day. Which meant he was number 4. And the guy was getting drunk. And so on down the line.
February 19th, December 14th, July 23rd, June 5th, March 2nd, March 31st, May 24th, April 1st, March 17th, November 2nd, August 24th, May 11th, October 30th, December 11th, May 13th, December 10th, July 13th, December 9th, August 16th, August 2nd, November November 11th, November 27th, August 8th, September 30th.
It's one of those times where I wasn't around for Samuel Morse's decision, but this was when I was just sitting. I was parked right in the middle of, as I was pretty much everybody my age, and I remember how it felt like being at the edge of a whirlpool. You're standing there and just hearing these numbers, and I don't think there was any other time in my life where the social compact of this country, in argument with a war, in my case, sort of no argument with the draft, was sensible. But the strange serendipity, you can do nothing but get sucked in or spit out.
Were you watching TV?
No, I couldn't. I listened to the radio. I couldn't listen to anything else, and I came up fairly early.
Oh, what? You were by yourself when you were watching?
So I knew I was going to, and I was called.
What was your number?
54, I think. Yeah. So,
wow.
Yeah, I was alone at that time. At that moment, I think. More alone than maybe I was prepared for. But putting that aside, it's just sort of amazing that you could not be old enough to know that and somehow deliver a version of it that feels so gorgeously true.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting form of translation here. Like you could translate yourself into a moment just based on details like Roger Mudd's voice and his appearance.
Yeah, how did you